Have you ever stopped yourself from doing something because you were worried about what someone else might think? Maybe you wanted to speak your mind, but you stayed silent. Maybe you wanted to start something new, but you imagined people laughing at you. Maybe you made a mistake, and instead of learning from it, you spent hours thinking about how everyone else saw you. Maybe someone criticized you, ignored you, rejected you, or misunderstood you, and suddenly their opinion occupied your entire mind. You replayed the conversation. You imagined what you should have said. You wondered whether they were judging you. You wondered whether they respected you. You wondered whether they were talking about you behind your back. And without realizing it, you gave another person control over your peace. This is one of the most subtle forms of slavery. Not physical slavery, mental slavery. You can be financially successful and still be mentally imprisoned. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. You can have freedom in your schedule while having no freedom in your mind. Because if your emotional state depends on how other people perceive you, then your peace is always in someone else's hands. One compliment can make you feel powerful. One criticism can destroy your confidence. One person ignoring you can make you question your worth. One negative comment online can ruin your entire day. But the Stoics offered a radically different way of living. They taught that your life becomes calmer when you stop trying to control what was never yours to control. You cannot control another person's opinion. You cannot control whether they like you. You cannot control whether they understand you. You cannot control whether they approve of your choices. You cannot control what they say when you're not around. You cannot control their expectations. You cannot control their emotions. But you can control something far more important: your response, your judgment, your character, your actions, your attention, your values, and ultimately your mind. This is the heart of Stoic detachment. It does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean becoming arrogant. It does not mean pretending you don't care about anyone. And it certainly does not mean becoming insensitive. It means learning the difference between caring about people and being controlled by their opinions. You can love people without needing their approval. You can respect people without obeying their expectations. You can listen to criticism without allowing criticism to define you. You can accept rejection without believing you are worthless. You can be misunderstood without desperately trying to correct everyone's perception of you. And you can walk away from judgment without carrying it home with you. Today, we're going to explore how. Not through empty motivational quotes. Not through pretending that judgment doesn't hurt. But through a practical Stoic philosophy that can change the way you see yourself, other people, criticism, rejection, embarrassment, social pressure, and even failure. So take a breath, slow down, and for the next 2 hours, imagine that you are stepping outside the noise of the world. Because the goal is not to make everyone like you. The goal is to become so grounded in your own character that other people's opinions no longer control your emotional life. Why we care so much about other people's opinions. Human beings naturally care about belonging. For most of human history, being rejected by the group could be dangerous. Your ancestors depended on communities for food, protection, cooperation, and survival. So the human brain became highly sensitive to social acceptance. That's why rejection can feel physically painful. That's why embarrassment can feel overwhelming. That's why criticism can stay in your mind for hours. Your brain is constantly asking, am I accepted? Do they respect me? Do I belong? Did I embarrass myself? Are they judging me? The problem is not that these questions exist. The problem begins when they become the foundation of your identity. You start living your life according to an imaginary audience. You don't ask, what do I believe? You ask, what will people think? You don't ask, what is right for me? You ask, will they approve? You don't ask, what kind of person do I want to become? You ask, what kind of person will make everyone admire me? And slowly, your life stops being yours. You begin performing. You perform confidence. You perform happiness. You perform success. You perform perfection. You perform a version of yourself designed to receive approval. And the tragedy is that no performance can satisfy everyone. If you become successful, someone will say you're arrogant. If you stay humble, someone will say you're weak. If you speak confidently, someone will say you're full of yourself. If you stay quiet, someone will say you're insecure. If you work hard, someone will say you're obsessed. If you rest, someone will say you're lazy. If you spend money, someone will criticize you. If you save money, someone will call you cheap. If you follow tradition, someone will call you old-fashioned. If you change, someone will say you've forgotten where you came from. There is no version of you that everyone will approve of. So why build your identity around something impossible? This is where Stoicism becomes incredibly powerful. The Stoic asks a simple question: is this within my control? If another person's opinion is outside your control, why give it authority over your inner world? You can influence people. You can communicate. You can explain. You can behave respectfully. But ultimately, another person's judgment belongs to them. It is their mind, not yours. And one of the greatest forms of freedom is learning to leave other people's minds where they belong. With them, the Stoic circle of control. Imagine two circles. The first circle contains everything you control: your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your effort, your attitude, your values, your response, your discipline, your attention, your character. The second circle contains everything you cannot completely control: other people's opinions, other people's behavior, other people's emotions, the past, the future, random events. Whether someone likes you, whether someone understands you, whether someone recognizes your effort, whether someone gives you the opportunity you wanted. The Stoic mistake is not that we fail to control everything. The mistake is that we try. We spend enormous amounts of mental energy trying to manage the second circle while neglecting the first. Think about how much energy you can spend wondering: what does she think about me? Why did he leave me on read? Why didn't they invite me? Why did they criticize me? Why did my boss praise someone else? Why did that person unfollow me? Why did they laugh? Why did they look at me like that? You cannot control any of those things, but you can control what you do next. You can return to your work. You can return to your values. You can return to your purpose. You can choose not to react. This is not weakness. This is strength. A weak mind is pulled in every direction by external events. A disciplined mind knows where to return. So whenever you notice yourself worrying about someone's opinion, pause. Ask, is this mine to control? If the answer is no, release it. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it doesn't belong to you. Then ask the second question: what is mine to control? That question brings you back to yourself. Maybe your responsibility is to speak honestly. Maybe your responsibility is to apologize. Maybe your responsibility is to improve. Maybe your responsibility is simply to continue. The moment you shift your attention from their judgment to your responsibility, you regain power. You don't need everyone to understand you. One of the most exhausting desires is the desire to be understood by everyone. You explain yourself, then you explain the explanation, then you clarify, then you defend, then you provide evidence, then you replay the conversation. Why? Because somewhere inside you believe, if they understand me, I'll finally feel okay. But what happens when they still don't understand? You become frustrated. You become angry. You become obsessed with changing their perception. Stoicism teaches something liberating. You are not responsible for controlling another person's interpretation of you. You are responsible for acting with integrity. Suppose someone misunderstands your intentions. You can explain once. You can clarify respectfully. But after that, you have a choice. You can keep chasing their approval, or you can let your character speak through your consistent actions. Sometimes people will misunderstand you. Sometimes they will judge you incorrectly. Sometimes they will create a story about you that isn't true. And sometimes there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. This is difficult, but is also freeing, because you don't need to attend every trial where someone has put you on trial. You don't need to defend yourself against every accusation. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding. You don't need to win every argument. There are moments when silence is not surrender. Silence is freedom. The difference between self-respect and approval. There is a major difference between wanting to be respected and needing approval. Self-respect comes from inside. Approval comes from outside. Self-respect asks, did I act according to my values? Approval asks, did they like what I did? Self-respect asks, was I honest? Approval asks, did they praise me? Self-respect asks, did I give my best effort? Approval asks, do they notice? When you live through approval, your emotional state becomes unstable. Praise makes you high. Criticism makes you low. Attention makes you feel important. Silence makes you feel invisible. But when you build self-respect, something changes. You become less dependent on applause. You don't need everyone to clap. You know what you did. You know why you did it. You know whether you acted with courage. You know whether you were honest. You know whether you kept your promise. That internal standard becomes stronger than external judgment. And this is one of the most important Stoic practices. Judge yourself by your character, not by the crowd. The crowd can be wrong. The crowd can be emotional. The crowd can be inconsistent. The crowd can praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. If your identity depends on the crowd, you'll constantly change. But character gives you a stable center. Stop trying to look perfect. Many people don't actually want to become better. They want to look better. There's a difference. One is about character. The other is about appearance. When you care too much about what people think, you may start avoiding mistakes. You avoid asking questions because you don't want to look stupid. You avoid speaking because you're afraid of saying something wrong. You avoid starting a business because people might laugh. You avoid creating content because someone might criticize you. You avoid learning because you don't want to look inexperienced. But how does growth happen? Through imperfection, through mistakes, through awkward beginnings, through failure, through being a beginner. You cannot become excellent while protecting yourself from looking inexperienced. At some point, you must be willing to look foolish while learning. The Stoic doesn't ask, how can I avoid looking foolish? The Stoic asks, how can I continue doing what is valuable even when I might look foolish? That is courage. Imagine learning a new language. Your pronunciation isn't perfect. You make mistakes. Someone laughs. You have two choices. You can stop speaking, or you can smile, learn, and continue. The person who laughs may forget the moment tomorrow. But if you quit, you may remember the regret for years. Don't sacrifice your future growth to protect your temporary image. Criticism. What to accept and what to reject. Not all criticism is useless. This is important. Stoicism does not mean rejecting every negative opinion. Sometimes criticism contains valuable information. The key is to separate the message from the emotional reaction. Imagine someone tells you, you need to improve your communication. You could immediately think, they don't respect me. Or you could ask, is there something useful here? Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. Your job is to investigate. Ask, is the criticism true? If it is true, what can I learn? If it is false, do I need to respond? This creates emotional distance. Instead of reacting emotionally, you examine the information. Think of criticism as raw material. Some of it is useful. Some of it is garbage. You don't need to swallow everything just because someone handed it to you. You inspect it. You keep what helps. You discard what doesn't. And then you continue. When someone insults you, an insult feels powerful because we automatically interpret it as information about our worth. Someone says, you're stupid, and your mind immediately asks, am I stupid? Someone says, you're a failure, and suddenly you start questioning yourself. But an insult is not a measurement. It is a statement produced by another person's mind. It may contain truth. It may contain falsehood. It may contain anger. It may contain insecurity. It may contain frustration. But the words themselves do not automatically define you. Imagine someone throwing a stone at a wall. The wall doesn't ask, why did the stone attack me? The wall simply remains. You could become psychologically stronger in the same way. Not emotionless, stable. If someone insults you, pause. Don't immediately give them the reaction they're looking for. Take a breath. Ask, what exactly happened? Someone said words. That's it. Now decide what deserves your attention. Sometimes the strongest response is a calm response. Sometimes the strongest response is leaving. Sometimes the strongest response is correcting something. And sometimes the strongest response is nothing. Your silence can say, you do not control me. The power of not reacting. There is a moment between what happens and what you do. That moment is your freedom. Someone says something. You feel anger, but you don't have to answer immediately. Someone criticizes you. You feel embarrassed. But you don't have to defend yourself instantly. Someone provokes you. You feel the urge to respond, but you can wait. This pause is incredibly powerful. Most people live reactively. They receive an emotional stimulus and immediately release an emotional response. Someone pushes. They push back. Someone insults. They insult back. Someone ignores. They chase. Someone criticizes. They defend. Someone provokes. They explode. The Stoic creates space. The event happens. The emotion appears. Then the mind asks, what response serves my values? That question can change your life. You don't need to suppress emotions. You need to stop allowing emotions to become commands. Anger can exist without controlling your behavior. Fear can exist without controlling your choices. Embarrassment can exist without controlling your future. You can feel something without obeying it. That is emotional discipline. Stop mind reading. One of the biggest causes of social anxiety is pretending you know what other people think. Someone doesn't smile. You think, they don't like me. Someone looks away. You think, they're judging me. Someone doesn't respond. You think, they're angry. Someone laughs. You think, they're laughing at me. But notice what happened. You experienced an event. Then your mind created a story. The event was real. The interpretation was uncertain. Stoic thinking teaches you to separate facts from assumptions. Fact, they didn't respond. Story, they don't respect me. Fact, they looked at me. Story, they think I'm strange. Fact, they criticize my work. Story, they think I'm worthless. The more clearly you separate facts from interpretations, the less unnecessary suffering you create. You don't have to believe every story your mind produces. Thoughts are suggestions. They are not always facts. Social media and the modern approval trap. Modern technology has created an enormous approval machine. Likes, comments, views, followers, shares, subscribers, notifications. Every number seems to ask, how much are you worth? But a number is not your worth. A view is not your value. A like is not your character. A follower count is not your humanity. Yet people can become addicted to digital approval. They post something, then they check. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, again, 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 and eventually their mood is controlled by strangers. One negative comment can overshadow hundreds of positive ones. Why? Because the mind is naturally attracted to threats. But you can train yourself differently. Create because you have something valuable to share. Work because the work matters. Learn because learning matters. Improve because improvement matters. Don't turn your entire creative life into a desperate request for approval. The world doesn't owe you applause, and you don't owe the world a performance. Stop comparing your life to other people. Comparison is another form of caring about other people's opinions. You see someone's success. Suddenly your own progress feels smaller. You see their house, their career, their relationship, their appearance, their followers, their lifestyle, and you think, why am I behind? But you're comparing your complete life to a carefully selected portion of someone else's life. You see their results. You don't see every sacrifice. You see the photograph. You don't see the years. You see the achievement. You don't see the failures. You see the confidence. You don't see the private doubts. Comparison becomes especially dangerous when you use another person's life to measure your worth. Stoicism offers a better measurement. Compare yourself with yourself. Are you more disciplined than you were last year? Are you wiser, more patient, more courageous, more honest, more consistent, more emotionally stable? That's meaningful progress. Your goal is not to become better than everyone. Your goal is to become better than the version of yourself that you were yesterday. Rejection does not define you. Rejection is painful. There is no need to pretend otherwise. You can want something deeply and still not receive it. A job rejects you. A person doesn't choose you. A friend moves away. An opportunity disappears. A customer says no. An audience doesn't respond. And your mind says, this means I'm not good enough. But rejection only tells you that a particular outcome did not happen. It does not automatically tell you your worth. A door closing is information. It may mean, try again, change your approach, choose another direction, improve. Move on. But it does not have to mean you are worthless. The Stoic doesn't demand that every door open. The Stoic learns to walk when one closes. You are not responsible for everyone's happiness. Another reason people care too much about opinions is people-pleasing. You constantly ask, are they okay? Are they upset with me? Did I disappoint them? Should I say yes? Will they be angry if I say no? Compassion is good, but responsibility has limits. You are responsible for treating people fairly. You are not responsible for controlling every emotion they experience. Sometimes saying no will disappoint someone. That does not automatically mean you did something wrong. Sometimes setting a boundary will make someone uncomfortable. That does not automatically mean the boundary is wrong. Sometimes choosing your priorities will cause someone to disagree. You can be kind without being controlled. You can be generous without being available to everyone. You can care without sacrificing your entire identity. Learn to say no. A person who cannot say no becomes a prisoner of other people's expectations. No is not cruelty. No is sometimes clarity. If you say yes because you're afraid of being disliked, that isn't generosity. That's fear. If you agree because you're afraid someone will criticize you, that isn't peace. That's submission. A Stoic learns to ask, is this consistent with my responsibilities? Is this consistent with my values? Do I genuinely have the capacity? If the answer is no, you can decline respectfully. You don't need a 10-minute explanation. You don't need to invent excuses. You can simply say, I can't commit to that. I won't be able to do it. That doesn't work for me. And then continue. People may judge you. Let them. You are not required to make everyone comfortable with every decision you make. The courage to be disliked. This may be one of the hardest lessons. You must become comfortable with being disliked. Not because you should intentionally make people dislike you, but because you cannot live honestly while making universal approval your goal. Someone will dislike your boundaries. Someone will dislike your ambition. Someone will dislike your quietness. Someone will dislike your confidence. Someone will dislike your success. Someone will dislike your failure. Someone will dislike your choices. And if you spend your life preventing dislike, you will constantly betray yourself. The goal isn't, everyone must like me. The goal is, I will treat people well while remaining faithful to my principles. Those are very different goals. What would you do if nobody could see you? Imagine for a moment that nobody could see your achievements. No one could post about them. No one could compliment you. No one could criticize you. No one would know. What would you still do? Would you still exercise? Would you still learn? Would you still build your business? Would you still read? Would you still become disciplined? Would you still help people? Your answer reveals something important. If you would continue, then your motivation comes from within. If you would stop, perhaps you have been living too much for recognition. External recognition isn't evil. It feels good. Praise can be enjoyable. Success can be celebrated. But it should be a bonus, not the foundation. Build a life that remains meaningful even when nobody is watching. Your reputation is not your character. Reputation is what people think you are. Character is what you actually are. Reputation can change quickly. Character takes years to build. You can have a great reputation and poor character. You can have a bad reputation and excellent character. History is full of misunderstood people. So don't confuse public perception with personal truth. Ask, who am I when nobody is watching? How do I behave when I have power? How do I behave when I am angry? How do I behave when I am disappointed? Do I keep promises? Do I tell the truth? Do I treat weaker people with respect? Those questions reveal character, not applause. Accept that people will talk. People talk. They talk when you're successful. They talk when you're struggling. They talk when you change. They talk when you stay the same. Sometimes they talk because they care. Sometimes because they're curious. Sometimes because they're bored. Sometimes because they're projecting their own frustrations. You don't need to investigate every conversation happening without you. Imagine trying to control every word spoken about you. Impossible. You would need to control thousands of minds. So why attempt it? Let people talk. Your job is not to silence every voice. Your job is to choose which voices deserve your attention. The Stoic response to gossip. Suppose someone tells you, people are talking about you. Your first instinct may be, what are they saying? But sometimes the better question is there anything I need to do? If there's a real problem, address it. If there is useful feedback, learn. If there is false gossip, you don't necessarily need to chase it. Gossip survives on attention. You don't have to feed it. There is tremendous freedom in becoming less interested in what people say when you aren't there. Your absence does not require management. Your reputation does not require constant defense. Your life is happening now. Don't spend today's energy fighting yesterday's conversation. Detachment does not mean indifference. This distinction matters. Stoic detachment does not mean, I don't care about anyone. It means, I care, but I will not surrender my peace. You can care deeply and remain calm. You can love someone and accept that they may leave. You can care about your career and accept uncertainty. You can care about your reputation and refuse to obsess over it. You can care about success and remain emotionally stable when you fail. Detachment is not the absence of love. It is the absence of unhealthy dependence. You don't say, I don't care. You say, I care, but I understand that I cannot control everything. That is mature strength. Practice voluntary discomfort. One powerful Stoic practice is voluntarily experiencing small discomforts. Why? Because discomfort teaches you that you can survive without constant comfort. Take a walk without your phone. Spend some time without checking notifications. Wear simple clothes. Eat a simple meal. Spend time alone. Allow yourself to be bored. Speak even if you're nervous. Let a message remain unanswered for a while without checking repeatedly. These small exercises train independence. You're teaching your nervous system, I don't need immediate reassurance. I don't need constant stimulation. I don't need constant approval. I can be uncomfortable and still be okay. That lesson is incredibly valuable. Stop explaining yourself. There is a difference between communication and over-explanation. Communication provides necessary information. Over-explanation often comes from fear. You worry. What if they misunderstand? What if they think I'm rude? What if they disagree? So you keep talking. You give more reasons. Then more reasons. Then you start defending your right to make the decision. Sometimes you simply need to say what you mean. Calmly, respectfully, clearly. Then stop. Your decision doesn't become more legitimate because you provide 20 explanations. Your life is too short to live as a performance. Imagine reaching old age. Imagine looking back. Would you be proud of the things you actually did? Or would you remember all the things you didn't do because you were afraid of judgment? The video you never created. The business you never started. The person you never approached. The skill you never learned. The opinion you never expressed. The dream you abandoned. Not because you couldn't, because you were afraid someone might laugh. That is an expensive price to pay for approval. One day, the opinions you're worrying about today will be forgotten. So don't sacrifice your life to protect your image. Use your own standard. Create a personal standard. At the end of the day, ask yourself, did I act honestly? Did I control what I could control? Did I treat people with respect? Did I keep my promises? Did I make progress? Did I respond instead of react? Did I act courageously? Did I waste energy on things outside my control? This becomes your internal scoreboard. You no longer need the internet to tell you whether you had a good day. You judge yourself by your principles. The nightly Stoic review. Before sleeping, spend 5 minutes reviewing your day. Ask, where did I seek approval? Where did I react emotionally? Where did I worry about someone's opinion? Where did I allow criticism to control me? Where did I act according to my values? What can I improve tomorrow? Do not use this exercise to attack yourself. Use it to train yourself. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. Every day, you become slightly more conscious. Every day, you notice your reactions earlier. Every day, the pause becomes longer. And eventually, something changes. The same things that once controlled you begin to lose their power. The 10-second Stoic reset. When you suddenly feel judged, use this simple reset. Step 1. Stop. Step 2. Take one slow breath. Step 3. Identify the fact. What actually happened? Step 4. Separate the story. What am I assuming? Step 5. Ask, is this within my control? Step 6. Ask, what action reflects my values? then act. This can take less than 10 seconds. But repeated thousands of times, it can transform your emotional life. When you feel embarrassed, embarrassment feels enormous because you experience yourself from the inside. You feel your heartbeat. You notice your face becoming warm. You replay your words. You remember the mistake. But other people are usually much less focused on you than you imagine. They have their own problems, their own insecurities, their own worries, their own lives. The person you think is thinking about your mistake may be thinking about their own mistake. The human mind often exaggerates its importance in the attention of others. So when embarrassment appears, tell yourself, I made a human mistake. Not, I am a mistake. Those are completely different statements. Stop asking, do they like me? Replace the question. Instead of, do they like me? Ask, do I respect how I behaved? Instead of, do they approve? Ask, was my decision consistent with my values? Instead of, do they think I'm successful? Ask, am I doing meaningful work? Instead of, do they think I'm attractive? Ask, am I taking care of myself? Instead of, do they think I'm intelligent? Ask, am I continuing to learn? These questions move power from the outside world back into your hands. You cannot control the crowd. Imagine standing in a public square. One person applauds, another criticizes, another ignores you, another misunderstands you, another copies you, another envies you, another supports you. Same person, different opinions. Which one is the truth? The answer is that none of them completely defines you. They are perspectives. Your job is not to become whatever each person wants. Your job is to become a person you respect. That requires internal direction. Don't let one person become your world. Sometimes we care too much about one person's opinion. A partner, a parent, a friend, a boss, a teacher, a follower, a critic. We give their opinion extraordinary power. One sentence from them can determine our mood. One look can make us anxious. One rejection can make us question everything. Remember, no single human being should become the owner of your mind. Respect their perspective. Listen when appropriate, but maintain your own center. Your identity must be larger than one person's opinion. When family doesn't understand you, this can be especially difficult. People close to you may have expectations. They may want you to choose a particular career. They may have a particular idea of success. They may criticize your choices because they fear uncertainty. You can respect their concerns without surrendering your entire life. Listen, understand, communicate, but ultimately, you must live your own life. You can love your family and still make different choices. Respect does not require complete agreement. When friends judge your growth, sometimes people are comfortable with the old version of you. When you begin changing, they may say, you've changed. Maybe you have. Growth is change. You're allowed to develop new habits, new priorities, new boundaries, new goals. Not everyone will understand the new version of you. That's okay. The question isn't, do they approve of my growth? The question is this growth making me wiser, healthier, more disciplined, and more aligned with my values? If yes, continue. When success attracts judgment, success can create criticism. People may say you got lucky. They may minimize your effort. They may question your motives. They may compare themselves with you. Don't waste your life proving your success. You don't need to convince everyone that you deserve what you have. Gratitude is stronger than defensiveness. Stay humble. Keep learning. Keep working. Let your results speak. And remember that success itself is not the highest goal. Character is. When failure attracts judgment, failure can make you feel exposed. But failure is not a public identity. It is an event. You failed at something. You are not failure itself. This distinction is powerful. A Stoic asks, what did this teach me? What can I improve? What is still within my control? Failure becomes information. The person who learns from failure becomes stronger than the person who never attempts anything because they fear judgment. The price of people-pleasing. People-pleasing looks peaceful from the outside, but internally, it creates resentment. You say yes when you want to say no. You stay quiet when you want to speak. You agree when you disagree. You hide your needs. You constantly adjust yourself. Eventually, You may become angry at people for controlling you, but sometimes they didn't control you. You gave away your choices because you were afraid of their reaction. This is difficult to admit, but it is empowering, because if you participated in giving away your power, you can participate in taking it back. Start with small boundaries. Say no respectfully. Express your preference. Make a decision without asking everyone. Let someone disagree and survive the discomfort. The art of letting people be wrong about you. This is advanced emotional freedom. Someone has an incorrect opinion about you, and you know it. You could correct them, but you don't always need to. Why? Because being misunderstood is sometimes the price of freedom. If you must correct every false perception, you will spend your entire life managing other people's minds. Let them think what they think. You know your intentions. You know your actions. You know your values. Sometimes that is enough. Argue with everyone. Not every disagreement deserves your energy. Ask, don't. Will this conversation change anything? Is the person open to reason? Is this important? Will responding improve the situation? If the answer is no, walk away. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to have the final word. You don't need to prove you're intelligent. Sometimes the most intelligent response is silence. Protect your attention. Your attention is one of your most valuable resources. Where attention goes, life follows. If you spend hours thinking about criticism, criticism becomes part of your life. If you spend hours thinking about other people's opinions become part of your life. Instead, direct attention toward things you can build. Your health, your knowledge, your family, your craft, your work, your character, your future. Every time you catch yourself obsessing over someone else's opinion, gently redirect your attention. You don't need to fight the thought. Simply return. Again, and again, and again. This is mental training. The Stoic view of praise. Criticism isn't the only danger. Praise can also control you. If you become addicted to praise, you become afraid of losing it. Then you begin making decisions based on applause. You post what people want. You say what people want. You behave how people expect. Eventually, praise becomes another prison. Enjoy compliments. Accept appreciation, but don't become dependent on them. A Stoic can receive praise without needing it. The Stoic view of silence. Silence can be uncomfortable, especially when you're used to explaining yourself. But silence creates space. It gives emotions time to settle. It prevents unnecessary conflict. It allows you to observe. You don't have to respond to every message immediately. You don't have to answer every accusation. You don't have to comment on every controversy. You don't have to prove your position every minute. Sometimes peace begins with choosing not to participate. What if they think you're weak? Some people fear that calmness will make them look weak. But emotional control is not weakness. Anyone can explode. Anyone can insult. Anyone can shout. Anyone can react. The harder skill is maintaining composure when you have every opportunity to lose it. Strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like saying, I understand your point. Sometimes it looks like, I disagree. Sometimes it looks like, I won't continue this conversation. You don't need emotional chaos to prove strength. What if they think you're arrogant? When you become more confident, someone may call you arrogant. The answer isn't to become insecure. Ask whether your behavior actually needs correction. Are you disrespectful? Do you look down on people? Are you refusing feedback? If yes, improve. If no, continue. This is the Stoic method. Examine. Correct. Continue. Don't automatically accept criticism. Don't automatically reject criticism. Investigate it. The empty seat test. Imagine walking into a room where nobody knows you. No reputation. No history. No social status. No followers. No achievements. Just you. What remains? Your character. Your habits. Your knowledge. Your discipline. Your kindness. Your courage. That is what you should build. Because external labels can disappear quickly. Character stays with you. Build a life you don't need to escape from. Many people become obsessed with other people's opinions because they're disconnected from their own lives. They don't like what they're doing. They don't know what they value. They don't have meaningful goals. So social approval becomes their main source of identity. Build something meaningful. Have a purpose. Develop your skills. Take care of your body. Create, learn, serve, work, rest. Spend time with people who matter. When your life becomes meaningful, random opinions become smaller. Not because you become arrogant, because your attention has somewhere better to go. Your new rule. From today, create one rule. I will not sacrifice my values to protect my image. Read that again. You can protect your reputation through honest behavior. You can improve mistakes. You can apologize. You can communicate. But don't betray your principles simply because someone might judge you. If you believe something is right, act responsibly. If you make a mistake, admit it. If you don't know, learn. If you fail, improve. If someone dislikes you, accept it. If someone misunderstands you, explain if necessary. Then move forward. The 30-day Stoic Challenge. For the next 30 days, practice one principle every day. Day 1. Notice every time you seek approval. Day 2. Say no to one unnecessary request. Day 3. Do something useful without telling anyone. Day 4. Spend 1 hour without checking social media. Day 5. Accept a small criticism without defending yourself immediately. Day 6. Let someone have the final word. Day 7. Write down what is and isn't within your control. Day 8. Do something while allowing yourself to be imperfect. Day 9. Stop checking whether someone has responded. Day 10. Give yourself 1 hour without external validation. Day 11. Write your personal values. Day 12. Make one decision without asking for unnecessary approval. Day 13. Listen more than you speak. Day 14. Practice silence during a disagreement. Day 15. Do something difficult because it is good for you, not because people will notice. Day 16. Accept that someone may misunderstand you. Day 17. Avoid gossip. Day 18. Don't explain a decision more than necessary. Day 19. Write down 3 things you respect about your character. Day 20. Forgive yourself for one past mistake. Day 21. Spend time alone without entertainment. Day 22. Receive praise without becoming dependent on it. Day 23. Receive criticism without immediately rejecting it. Day 24. Do one thing you have avoided because of fear of judgment. Day 25. Unfollow accounts that constantly trigger unhealthy comparison. Day 26. Focus entirely on your own progress. Day 27. Let someone disagree with you. Day 28. Review where you gave away your power. Day 29. Practice responding instead of reacting. Day 30. Write this sentence. My peace is my responsibility. Then read it every morning. The deepest Stoic lesson. Eventually, you realize something. Most of the people whose opinions you fear are also worried about opinions. They're worried about themselves. They are thinking about their own problems, their own appearance, their own mistakes, their own future, their own relationships, their own insecurities. You may be spending hours worrying about what someone thinks about you while they are spending 0 minutes thinking about you. And even when they do think about you, their opinion is filtered through their experiences. So why treat their judgment as objective truth? You don't need to. Listen when useful. Ignore when necessary. Continue living. Become difficult to disturb. The ultimate goal is not to become someone who never feels emotion. That is impossible. The goal is to become difficult to disturb. Criticism comes. You examine it. Praise comes. You appreciate it. Rejection comes. You recover. Failure comes. You learn. Someone misunderstands you. You clarify if necessary. Someone insults you. You choose your response. Someone dislikes you. You continue. Someone praises you. You remain grounded. This is emotional independence. You don't need permission to become yourself. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need permission to change. You don't need permission to set boundaries. You don't need permission to start again. You don't need permission to become disciplined. You don't need permission to pursue meaningful work. You don't need permission to stop explaining yourself. You don't need permission to walk away from unhealthy situations. You're responsible for your life. That responsibility can feel heavy, but is also freedom. And the phone is silent and nobody is watching. You're left with yourself. Make sure you can live peacefully with that person. That is the real victory. Not popularity, not applause, not approval. Character, peace. discipline, freedom, and a mind that belongs to you. So the next time someone judges you, pause, breathe, and remember, they are allowed to have their opinion. Then ask yourself, what is mine to control? Your answer will bring you back home, back to your values, back to your purpose, back to your life. And eventually, you will discover something beautiful. The less you need people to approve of you, the more freely you can become yourself. The less you chase validation, the more peaceful you become. The less you fear judgment, the more courageously you live. And the more you control your own mind, the less power the outside world has over you. You don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need everyone to like you. You don't need everyone to agree with you. You only need to live with integrity. Do what is right. Accept what is outside your control. Learn from what happens. And keep walking. Quietly, calmly, deliberately. Because the strongest person is not the person who receives the most approval. It is the person who no longer needs approval to know who they are. And that is the freedom Stoicism offers. Not freedom from people. Freedom from being controlled by their opinions. Not freedom from criticism. Freedom from being destroyed by it. Not freedom from emotions. Freedom from being ruled by them. Not freedom from uncertainty. Freedom from demanding that life behave exactly as you want. So take your attention back. Take your confidence back. Take your responsibility back. Take your mind back. And live. If this message helped you, don't just listen to it. Practice it. The next time someone criticizes you, pause. The next time someone dislikes you, breathe. The next time you feel the need to explain yourself, ask whether an explanation is actually necessary. The next time you compare yourself to someone else, return to your own path. And the next time you worry about what people think, remember, you cannot control their minds, but you can control what you do with yours. Your peace is not something other people should have the power to give or take away. Protect it, train it, strengthen it, and most importantly, live your life, not for the applause of the crowd, not for the approval of strangers, but according to the person you are becoming. That is Stoic freedom. That is self-mastery. And that is how you stop caring what people think. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel Anima Forte.